It's WST Sunday Live, hosted by Hrabchak, Lyss Houde, and Jacob Stoller.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome into WST Sunday Live, a playoff edition. The Winnipeg Jets taking a 1-0 series lead over the St. Louis Blues, winning 5-3 last night. Clutch goal. The whiteout is back. We're going to break it all down on today's episode. And we're going to be joined by the hockey insider himself, Elliotte Friedman. If you're watching the game last night, it's on Hockey Night Canada. Friedge is on the panel. Super excited to get Friedge on the program. But for right now, we've got Lyss and Jacob. Guys, how are you doing this morning? Lyss, I'll start with you.
Well, I am just so dialed to be here with everybody. I think the biggest thing about the Winnipeg whiteout, the early stages of the playoffs, whatever, it's just holy smokes how on board with everything this city gets and how much of a community feel everything has to it. Yeah. And so, seeing everybody yesterday, I bet you I said hello to 200 people over the course of the hours and hours that I was in the vicinity of the Canada Life Center. So, it was just such a fun day, and we get to do it all again tomorrow, which is the most fun part of the playoffs and the excitement around it.
Absolutely. Jacob, how are you doing this morning?
Lyss, did you know the people you're saying hi to, or just like with rapid fire?
Yeah, dude, it's a Gen Z hive out there, bro. Aspen School Business alumni, holy smokes.
That is true.
I thought you meant it was like such an inviting community that you could go up and say hi to like 200 people.
Oh no, I'm not that outgoing. I'm outgoing, but I'm not that outgoing.
Okay, I see. Yeah, doing good. Still, I mean, honestly, I thought before that goal last night we were heading to like double OT. So
me too. Yeah.
Part of me is kind of happy we didn't go there. I think that would have just been a lot to process as a writer doing their first playoffs in this fashion for a team. So all things considered, it went pretty well last night.
Yes, thank you, Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, rising to the occasion. And I think that's where I want to start with my analysis, at least of this game. Going like way too big picture right off the hop. Coming into the season, the question for the Winnipeg Jets was their core good enough to win in the playoffs? And game one, Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor rose to the occasion. They were easily the Jets' best line. They had the face-off play late in the game. Mark Scheifele to Kyle Connor for the win. Like, this was the main question coming into not only the playoffs, but the regular season as well with this Winnipeg Jets team. And their core absolutely showed up, especially Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. Lyss, what were your thoughts? Maybe just blanket thoughts on the game last night.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right. And I feel like my general takeaway at the end of the game was that depth was fine, but this was a best on best game. And the Winnipeg Jets' best players were just a little bit better than the St. Louis Blues' best players. Robert Thomas, awesome. Jordan Kyrou, what a stud. Their big guys showed up. They were great. They were awesome. But the Winnipeg Jets' big guys also showed up. And, when fighting fire with fire here, the Winnipeg Jets were able to kind of take them down in that incredible third period that admittedly I've watched 3 times now. So
yes, absolutely. Jacob, what were your thoughts on the Jets' performance last night? And I kind of want to ask you about their resiliency, because we were in the post-game scrum. Adam Lowry talked about how they didn't cheat the game. They stuck to their structure through 2 periods. The Jets were leading in chances, high danger chances, shots, shot attempts, everything. And they stuck to it in the third and ended up with the win. What did you think of that?
Well, I think that if you're a road team coming into the whiteout, there's a lot you can feed off of, wanting to silence that crowd. I think the Blues did that in the first 10 minutes. The Jets looked horrible. They'll probably be the first to tell you. I don't think they touched the puck in the offensive zone for the first 4 minutes of the game.
They looked nervous.
Genuinely.
They looked nervous. And Arneal mentioned that. Yeah.
I think at one point he shredded them a bit on the bench. Like, he just was like, you need to get into the game. Once they settled down and once they got into actually making it a game, and luckily for them, it didn't get too carried away. The Jets, once it was in the second period, they really hunkered down and made it Winnipeg Jets hockey, right? And I think that what that looks like, Kyle Connor described, they're pressuring the offensive zone. They're not giving you much defensively. They're kind of coming at you in waves, and I think that they start to do that. The one thing I will say though is in that game, like St. Louis also shot themselves in the foot a couple times as well. I'm not taking anything from the Jets at all, but like the Bolduc penalty, the cross check was so stupid. I don't know what he was thinking.
I wrote that down as my TSN turning point.
Yeah, I mean, they did kill the penalty, but still, it was just a dumb decision. And power play definitely gave them momentum. So, anyways, I think all in all, great effort by the Jets to bounce back. But I think what I saw from the Blues, even throughout that game, though, like it makes me think this is going to be a series. Like I don't think this is going to be just 4 or 5 games here, guys. I think this is going 6, if not 7. To be brutally honest.
Okay. Well, okay, this game specifically, I wrote down in my notes as well. I thought the Blues tired themselves out. They had 32 hits in the first period and like 50
crazy
through 2.
Yeah.
And Kevin Bieksa on the panel with Elliotte Friedman there, Hockey Night in Canada, they said you can't maintain that over a full game. And I know it's playoff hockey and the emotions are high and you want to go out and hit players, but there comes a point where like you're almost getting away from your game because you're chasing hits and tiring yourself out. And in that third period, the St. Louis Blues looked like a tired team who, like you said, Jacob, shot themselves in the foot a few times. Not sure what Cam Fowler was doing on the Alex Iafallo goal, just leaving the front of the net. Iafallo tucks it 5-hole. Some mental mistakes. Jets capitalized, and their best players showed up in the biggest moment of the game with a minute left in Kyle Connor's one-timer to beat Jordan Binnington. And I got to say, the crowd last night, I know, Lyss, you were outside, so you can give the street party analysis of the atmosphere around like that Kyle Connor goal and the crowd pop. But in the building, that was ridiculous. The Kyle Connor goal, I think that was the loudest crowd pop I've ever heard. Minute left, whiteout. Like that was, if you ever wondered, maybe it wouldn't be quite the same what Kyle Connor's triple overtime winner would have sounded like with a whiteout. It's pretty close to that. I mean, it's different circumstances in overtime versus a minute left, but man, that crowd was going absolutely nuts. And I'm sure they were outside as well, Lyss.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I think my favorite part about that last goal, whatever, is because the vibes were already getting higher, right? That Alex Iafallo tying goal was, gosh, did they need that when they needed it? And so the vibes are high and everyone was really excited. And the Kyle Connor goal is just, it's so funny because we could talk about the Robert Thomas goal, the Jordan Kyrou goal, where it's like there are corners in the net and some guys can pick them. And Kyle Connor is capable of picking them, no problem. This was just like an absolute cannon blast straight into the back of the net. No corner, no nothing. It's just a sniper doing what he does best and just absolutely ripping that thing. Jordan Binnington didn't even get a chance to slide over to get a touch on it. And it was just, it was a perfect goal for that exact moment, right? Because, you know, when you have even the Alex Iafallo goal where at first it's like, did that even go in because of the sharp corner it came out on, right? People are always like, oh, I'm not sure. That Kyle Connor one, no mistake. You saw that fly into the back of the net. You saw everyone erupt and it was electric. So much fun. And, you know, Jets fans deserve that.
Yeah. And Jacob, the play for the goal, we've seen the Jets run that faceoff play a lot this year. I know we've all three of us have been up in the press box many, many times this year. I don't know. That's just a faceoff play that you see. If it's on the right circle, you see Mark Scheifele as the one curling. If it's on the left circle, you see Nikolai Ehlers as the one curling. And they usually go back to the defenseman for the one-timer, but this time Mark Scheifele cuts to the middle. And then how many times have we seen Kyle Connor find open space in the offensive zone? And it's like, how is he open? It's like, well, he's drifting away from coverage. And Colton Parayko, 6'6", long stick, still can't even get a stick on it. So Jacob, that face-off play, Jets have had a lot of practice on it this year. And they even ran it earlier in the game too. Sportsnet panel did a great job highlighting that. Middle of the second period, they ran it, and it just didn't work on the pass to Josh Morrissey, but showing up in a big moment, Jacob.
Yeah, big difference maker. Like when it's Scheifele and not Nikolai Ehlers, obviously you lose the speed, but you get the element of speed, but you have the vision and the smarts. And
sure,
for Scheifele, like he, you know, sometimes Mark Scheifele, you know, right or wrong, isn't maybe going 100% in terms of all out skating. He's more of someone that breaks you with your mind and whatnot. But I thought in that play, his extra first 2 steps there were really huge, and him actually being able to create separation. And then his vision and skill do the rest. So I personally felt like they were due to get a goal there just because of how well they were playing. But to me, that play is a matter of Mark Scheifele adapting to the situation, because I like the play, like the tying goal to Alex Iafallo. Mark Scheifele plays the puck down low, is direct and just gets it to the net front. Alex Iafallo finishes it. That play there as well. He's, pushing off coverage, but he's finding those seams and being more direct, not just straying to, as you mentioned, the one-timer off the point, which is more of a low percentage shot. So I thought that was a masterclass game from Scheifele all around.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And I see some people in chat mentioning Connor Hellebuyck. I do want to say, was this Connor Hellebuck's best game? Absolutely not. Does he have to be better? 100%. The save he made off of Jordan Kyrou late in the second period to keep it at a 3-2 game was huge. Dylan Sandberg, who's my guy, didn't have his best game. Dylan Sandberg's had much better games. I can fully admit that. The puck is in the air. He misplays it. It bounces behind him. Jordan Kyrou, electric, lightning quick, jumps on the puck and has a breakaway from center ice. And Connor Hellebuyck makes the save. And the Jets at that point even were outplaying the Blues. So if that goal goes in, yes, there's still a chance the Jets come back and they stick to their structure and all of these things. But I will say that the Connor Hellebuyck save off of Jordan Kyrou list, looking back at the game in hindsight, really did loom large.
Well, that's why I need to give some love to Connor Hellebuyck, and this is going to sound like a crazy take, but I actually think that this might have been the perfect game, because if Connor Hellebuyck had come in and been lights out, Vezina, heart-winning, whatever you want to call him, from the moment, I think a lot of people would have been like, okay, but when's the shoe going to drop? A lot of people are it's going to take some time to convince them, and to be fair, rightfully so. I think that, Jets fans have, been through a lot the last couple of years. So I think they're allowed to have some nerves and some wariness. But the beginning of the game was looking like this thing was going to shape up to be a barn burner. And after, those 3 goals, Connor Hellebuyck shut the door. And you want to talk about, like the Jordan Kyrou save, a couple of big saves. You let one goal in there, it changes everything. And that's what happened with Jordan Binnington, right? That Iafallo goal, if you make that stop, it's a completely different game. And then the Kyle Connor one is just the cherry on top, right? But who needed to make the big saves at the end? Both of them. And who did? Not Jordan Binnington, right? So I think that was really good for the narrative, in the sense of, like, Connor Hellebuyck did start a little bit shaky. I think that there was a little bit of, especially on that third goal, people weren't super pleased with his positioning on that one. And I think that over the course of the game, he got better. And I think that that's what needed to happen in order to kind of get acclimatized to what was going on with playoff hockey.
For sure.
If I could say one thing,
Jacob,
I think too, you talk a lot about how, like, players playing in front of the whiteout need a couple shifts to kind of get in the rhythm and get the nerves out. I wonder for a goalie, especially one like Hellebuyck that wants more volume coming at him, how he actually probably needs a period or two to get settled in, right? Like, he's only, how many shots did he face in the first and second? 10? 13?
It was less in the third. It was only 2 in the third.
I was going to say, it's got to be more than that, because in the third, it was only like 1 or 2.
So 13, 14 in the first 2 periods. So yeah,
I don't know. My point being is, though, like, it wasn't like a high shot volume game. Thank you, math nerds, for harping on me here. But what I'm trying to say is, I wonder for him, because, like, or the third, for example, as well. Like, if the Blues had like a 3-minute stretch where they were pelting shots on, he would have made more saves and his save percentage would have been higher. Like, I don't really know how much I love the Hellebuyck had a bad game narrative. I think that when you're the Winnipeg Jets and you're playing your game well, you ideally aren't having many shots back there. So if he allows one, he's not able to kind of bank saves to make that save percentage higher. We all know a lot of people base goaltenders off of save percentage. Understandably, 99% of us don't understand goaltenders, myself included. I don't really, did you stop it or did you not? But I thought that the
follow for more.
Save, exactly. The Kyrou save was a great example of a key save at a key time.
Yes, and that's
and they
what
should
you
start
need
in
the
game
playoffs.
2, in case anyone's.
Well, we should ask Scott Arniel just to be sure. If he's
I'm going to ask Scott Arniel if Ville Heinola is healthy, and if it's.
Are you going back to Hellebuyck game 2?
Yeah. Okay.
Scott?
Perfect.
Back to Okay. There we go. We've got it. This is the future of Winnipeg media, folks. We've got the scrums covered. We're so fired up for the playoffs. Let's go. No, but I will say that save was huge for Connor Hellebuyck. Settled into the game for sure. And look for him to, he's facing, comment says, facing this pressure, MVP pressure, those MVP chants pregame from the whiteout. He said is a moment he'll never forget, and he thought it was really cool. So this crowd was fully into it for sure. Thank you everyone for joining us bright and early here, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. coming out of the Saturday win for the Winnipeg Jets. We will have Elliotte Friedman coming up in the program here, so stick around. The next thing I want to ask you both is which players, we talked about Scheifele and Connor and Hrabchak and some of the stars and rising to the occasion. Which players under the radar stood out for you in the first playoff game? Lyss, you're jumping to it. You're ready to go. Who stood out?
I want to pick my boy. Cole Perfetti. I think that this game was so fun for so many reasons. And Cole Perfetti is a guy who, listen, we all remember how he played in game 1 of last year. He didn't, right? And so there is
say what? Yeah.
There is certainly some, again, narrative with a capital N, if we're going to keep using that word, whatever, about what can he hang, right? And that's the question that a lot of people have. Not me. I don't have that question. But there are so many little details of Cole Perfetti's game that I really liked yesterday. And you wanted to talk about, for example, like how St. Louis was hitting everything in sight, especially in the front half of the game. Like they were just trying to lay the body on everything. There was one point where Cole Perfetti got absolutely crushed in the boards in the corner, and he was hanging onto the puck, and he's waiting, and he fully sacrifices the body, pops the puck behind him to give it to Vlad Nemestikov, and Vlad's got all the space in the world because he gets crushed by a hit in the corner. And that's a hit from the St. Louis Blues, 100%. You can add a tally there to the running list if you want to, but the puck doesn't change hands at all. And Vlad Nemestikov is able to take a ton of space, and they're able to hang on to it in the O-zone for quite a bit more time. Little things like that in Cole Perfetti's game. Talk about a team player, and him and Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor was kind of irritating me a little bit earlier in the game in terms of the Sportsnet panel talked about it, and they spoke about it in a really positive light in terms of how he was kind of feeling out the puck a little bit more. He was really hanging on to the puck. Cole Perfetti was really hanging on to the puck too. And holy smokes, the poise and the confidence that it takes to just kind of make those heads up plays, take a look around, see what you want to do. And when guys come to try and lay the body on you or lift your stick, you're like, "Hey, just give me a second, dude. I'm just trying to make a pass." And being able to kind of contain yourself there. It's giving Mark Scheifele, right? That's the thing. And that's what Mark Scheifele is so good at, is just that patience. And Cole Perfetti has always had that patience, but now having kind of the body positioning and the details to be able to keep up with that patience and make those right plays is becoming increasingly clear, and it has been over the course of the season. And I thought he had a really great game in that first game, especially because his line, that middle six right now, I'm pretty uninspired by in terms of like offensive firepower, and they were all able to hang over the course of the game, which was awesome.
One thing I will say, like, you made a great point, Les, about Perfetti hanging onto the puck. When was it? Was it the first period? No, second. When did Perfetti have that slot chance? That
second period, because it was right in front of us in the press box. Yeah, I was going to bring that up, actually. He had a slot chance, just barely missed on the glove side. Yeah.
Wait, it was in front of us? You mean it was the other end of the
ice? Like right.
There's another one then.
He had a few slot chances.
There was one
reinforcing Lyss's point.
There was one. The one I'm referencing is at the other end of the rink. By the way, where it was in the rink means nothing to most people that aren't imagining the press box, Connor.
But you're asking what period it was, and they either attacked
imagine the press box is
other.
Also imagining on TV. So,
ooh, that's actually true.
Attack zone or not, that means something.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, really great point by Lyss. But I think that one thing I want to mention is the deciding factor for Cole Perfetti in this series is going to be how quickly he's going to be able to adapt on his timing, because the chance I'm referencing, he has in the slot. If you release it a second before, it's not deflected off into the net. This is a basic thing that anyone's experiencing with the playoffs. With Perfetti, though, I think that's going to be that next sort of level for him. I also think ideally he'd be allowed Nikolai Ehlers as well, and wouldn't needing to be producing in that way. What I mean by that is, I think Cole Perfetti is the first one to tell you, like, his game he doesn't see as curling from the low end of the boards into the slot and ripping a shot. I don't think that's where he thinks he's the best. And like, credit to Cole for trying the move. So everything I saw, though, in terms of what he needs to do to be an impact player was encouraging. Cole Perfetti, did he fall down once on the puck? Holding the puck. How many times do you see Cole Perfetti fall down?
He got crunched after a few times.
No, but I'm saying with the puck. I'm saying
with the puck. Yeah.
After, of course he gets absolutely torched sometimes. Like any undersized so to speak player in their second playoff game ever will. But the point I'm trying to make is Cole Perfetti hanging the puck. It's not like Scheifele down, in the early days when Mark Scheifele was just falling all over the place.
Yes.
So, and the reason that I mention that is I think that right now what we're seeing is a template of a player that can play really well. That said, he needs help.
Sure.
Like that line needs. I liked Nemesnikov, Niederreiter, and Perfetti, but I think that Cole's a bit
That's
on an
not a
island
second
sometimes.
line on a Stanley Cup team.
No, not even close. I'm on a third line, to be frank with you.
And they're missing 2 top 6 wingers.
Of
so
course.
it's yeah, absolutely. Jacob, who stood out for you besides the core players and Perfetti? Because that was taken already.
So who am I allowed to say? This is like
anyone except for Connor, Scheifele, Hrabchak, or Perfetti.
I thought Iafallo was pretty awesome.
There you go.
Am I allowed to say that too? I think we're
absolutely
like trending up, trending down. I feel like right now you're gonna be like the list of people I can't say.
We're doing a clean slate today because it's playoffs. Just letting you know.
Better.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's like, oh, I think that the best was Dominic Tornado. That's what it feels like. Anyways,
very true.
So Iafallo. I've been a huge fan of Iafallo all year. I even was infamous of saying to Connor that you should have a deeper appreciation of Alex Iafallo. And what do you know? I've kind of turned out to be completely right because right now in these playoffs, Iafallo is kind of their secret weapon in a way, like in a sense that he's doing everything that you want in a complementary forward, right?
Yeah.
Plus, he's playing kind of angry a bit. When people don't really notice this, but before the third period melee at the end there, when Bull Duke nailed Iafallo from behind, really dirty hit, Iafallo after was like chasing him across the ice a bit and like really like in his face. And as competitive as Alex Iafallo is, as tenacious, all these things, he's not like Tanev where it's like in your face that way. But last time I think we saw Iafallo kind of get to that next gear, on top of the fact that, again, like this guy just blocks down passes at an unbelievable rate. Like in a tight checking series like that, you need guys like Iafallo that can do that. But the fact that also he's able to give a bit of like sandpaper as well, like that's a game changer to me in a lot of ways. And I almost wonder, we talked about this last night, Connor, about let's say Vilardi comes back. Like, where does he go? And you were saying with how well this line is playing, maybe they'll find another place to put Vilardi. And I originally to you said that I thought they'll just go back to Scheifele, Connor, and Vilardi. The one thing I would wonder, though, is the way this series has been and how heavy that it's been. Keep in mind, Vilardi's amazing on the wall, different than Iafallo, but I wonder if Arniel would almost have pause of getting the band back together in the sense that Iafallo brings the elements Vilardi does, while he has less offense in terms of what he does with the puck off the wall. That bite and competitiveness, when they're playing against the Thomas line for however many minutes a night, like they might need a bit of that. So, depending on if Ehlers is out longer than Vilardi, which I would assume, I assume that Vilardi is going to be coming back before Ehlers. If the if that's the case too, Arniel has to look at it from a standpoint. Am I putting my 3 best offensive guys on the same line with how I have nothing else right now? Frankly, not nothing, but you guys know what I mean,
right? Yes, yeah. No, I share this same. It's not a concern because the top line played great, but do you go then Perfetti, Nemesnikov, Vilardi, second line?
I'll just touch on this quickly, then I'll pass it to you, Lyss. I'm sort of like, okay. I said 2 days ago they may need to split up Scheifele and Connor. If they're getting outmatched in terms of the lines. I don't think they need to do that yet, at least not. I mean, given how the first game went. The worry I would have is when you have Perfetti, Nemesnikov, and Vilardi, how is that line going to enter the zone? Okay, it's not going to be with speed. Okay, so if you're going to play a chip and chase game, I don't know how many of those guys are going to be first in the retrievals there and be the F1. I think ideally none of those guys are. So that's one issue. Another part of it as well is, when you have Nino as the shooter, in instance on that line, it works in theory, though Nino's been kind of quiet. Vilardi's kind of better suited as a dual threat. Like he can either pass it or shoot it. Whereas on that line, I think his function would also to be getting pucks on net. So I don't know. Like I'm really confused with how they do this. And I don't know. I put it this way. If Ehlers and Velarde were coming back, I would go Ehlers, Lowry, Iafallo. Like I would bring that trio back.
Wow.
I think in this
Nice.
playoffs at
That's
some
nuts.
point
I love
we
it.
need to see that. We absolutely need to see that. Like,
And just before Lyss, I get to your thoughts. How good does the Alex
did I even
Iafallo
answer your
deal?
question, by the way? Sorry. Did I
No,
even answer?
but that's fine.
What was your question?
I said, would you put Perfetti and Velarde together? So you did, kind of. You said
Oh,
like
yeah.
you worry about how they enter
I'm
the
kind of like a
zone.
player. I'm actually great at deflecting questions.
Yeah, like
Okay.
yeah, as
continue.
long as they get pucks in deep and stick to their game plan, they'll be fine, right?
What did
Yeah.
Bufflin say that one time? As long as we
I
stick
don't know.
together, we'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Or-
Power of friendship.
No,
No,
like
I don't
that thing
know.
where he said, like, okay, you're
I
not
don't
gonna
remember.
You guys remember when Bufflin was like refusing to do media and he was like, not the Marshawn Lynch, I'm just doing this so I get fined. He said, as long as we stick together, I'll be fine. We'll be fine. You
Oh,
guys
no, I don't.
I don't remember
this.
that.
Am I
No.
This is
inventing this?
before
Now
my
I'm
time.
worried. Someone in the chat validate me because, like, if I just made that up, like, I swear that happened. If Lyss Hood
Anyways.
doesn't know, then I'm scared because like
Yeah.
Kendall McCardle's sin.
Hey, he's actually a financial advisor now. Did you know that?
No, I did not, but you
Well,
did.
Well,
I had
there we
no
go.
idea of that.
Anyways, what I'm trying to say is the Alex Iafallo contract that he signed, like 72 hours ago, already looks like a steal. 3 years, $3.6 million. And this is the impact you're getting on the top line. Like, we're at a point where if Velarde comes back and goes on the top line, Iafallo can't go back down to the fourth line. He's played at a top 6 level. Yeah. So, but if Velarde goes back and they kept the second line and third lines together, right? Like, I don't know. It's really interesting to see what they're going to do here because Alex Iafallo has played his way into the top 6. So Chad is on your side, Jacob. They say, yep, Adam Douglas, Darth Skater, C-Mac. Everyone remembers it. Yeah. Even says, I believe that was against the Blues in 2019. Look at that. Stoller's right. Everyone's on your side. People remember. My memory's not as good, I guess, from the I removed if it was 2019 against St. Louis, I just out of the memory.
That whole suit. Oh my gosh. Sorry, this is not to derail, but there is at the end of the game at
We're
one
well
point
past that already.
Samberg, yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
exactly. Samberg goes into the backboards, like just on Connor Hellebuyck's glove side behind and eats the puck with like whatever it was, like a minute left in the game. And I was like, this is so funny because that was the time to do it 100%, but it's giving Jacob Trouba in 2019 where it's like, you gotta go. It's tie game. And he's like, no, I'm going to eat the puck, guys. And it was so funny because it was in the exact same spot on the boards too. And I was like,
yeah.
Can I sort of derail this combo a bit as well? Sorry, is my video frozen?
Yeah,
Always.
your video's frozen.
Okay. Well, we'll have to figure that out.
We can hear you.
Should I leave and come back? No, we're good.
I mean, we can hear you.
Oh, no, you're still
Do
frozen.
I just take the video off? What do you guys think?
We'll figure it out in a little bit.
Let me just ask Lyss what a different question. We're not going to have you derail with no camera working. One thing, Lyss, that I did want to ask about, and you saw it on the face-off winning goal, is they put Neil Pionk with Josh Morrissey, and there was an icing for the St. Louis Blues, their tired group. This is an advantage for the Winnipeg Jets is getting the Scheifele line out there, and it's not Morrissey DeMello, it's Morrissey Pionk. And I feel like we saw that look throughout the season, as well as things like Cole Perfetti defending a lead late in games, and Samberg Schenn at times, even when Neil Pionk was healthy, protecting a lead late in games, or Samberg DeMello.
They did it yesterday.
I just feel like those little tweaks to the lineup have prepared the Jets extremely well for playoff hockey, where a lot of it is situational. And I know I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I feel like we saw a little bit of it last night too, where Samberg was playing with Schenn when the Jets were up there at the end. Morrissey was with Pionk on the winning goal where they're looking for offense. Like, I feel like this Jets team has so many options to go to in that sense, where if they need a goal or they're looking to defend a goal, they can put out two players that haven't played together all season long or predominantly played together, but they have, and they're well prepared for the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And I pointed that out the moment I saw them go out for that face-off, and I was like, okay, because you already talked about this. You brought up the set play, right, where they curl the net. If the play is typically to pass it back to the defenseman, you want two of your better shooting threats out there, right? Which is what they did. They put that out there. And obviously Scheifele saw some some open ice there in a higher danger area, like Jacob already so eloquently described. But that's what you do, right? Is you put out the guys who are set for what you're looking at. And I feel like, especially near the end of the game, where, like you said, the Jets were protecting that lead. Obviously, it only ended up being like 90 seconds worth. But in that situation, you know that a team that's been held to 2 shots in the entire third period is going to start ripping pucks on net. And so what do?
Sure.
You put out your 2 best shot blockers, right? And so things like that, like I feel like they are really in tune with a lot of their players' strengths. And that sounds like a really ridiculous thing to say, because obviously they are. That's an NHL coaching staff. But like, I think it's just, it shows that there is a very varied as with an A toolkit at their disposal, right, in terms of what their players are capable of doing. And I thought they did a good job of putting the right guys out at the right times over the course of that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Scott O'Neill mentioned adjustments as well before the series, that they'll need to make little tweaks. And I thought that was one of those moments where there was a little tweak. It looks like we have Elliotte Friedman in the green room. I don't see a camera for him, but I'll bring him in and see what's going on here, because with StreamYard, this isn't a WST Remo behind the scenes experience here. So let's bring in Elliotte Friedman.
Hey Connor, you know what? I'm not turning my camera on because I'm driving, and I don't want you guys to see how recklessly I drive.
Fine, we'll just hear it. We'll hear it. It's even better.
Okay.
Hear all the honks. Yeah. Well, thank you, Elliotte, for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time. What were your initial thoughts on last night's game? The Jets, with a 5-3 win, took a 1-0 series lead.
I thought it was a big win, a good win. Look, like they've talked a lot about how everything that went wrong last year is not going to go wrong this year. We're not going to panic. We're not going to fall apart when things go badly. When we get, like, every playoff series, a team gets punched in the face, right? Things go wrong, things go badly. And really, in a lot of ways, the worst thing that could have gone badly for the Jets in game number 1 did happen. And that was Hrabchak was a bit shaky. And still, you found a way to win and win a really tough game like that. There was no room on the ice last night for anyone who couldn't handle a physical brand of hockey. And for the Jets to win that game, like that was a massive win. Like, this is far from over. The Blues aren't going to back down, but if you can win a game where Hrabchak doesn't look strong and you fall behind early, if you're down after 2, that says a lot of good things about how the Jets talked about themselves and how they were going to be better.
Elliotte, in watching that game, I'm very curious what you thought of Cole Perfetti. He seemed to be able to withstand contact and other things. You had a feature with him and Mark Scheifele come out yesterday.
Yeah.
What have you learned from spending some time with Cole Perfetti, and what did you see last night as well?
Well, I thought he was pretty good. Like, he didn't seem like, as you guys know, I really hate giving BX compliments, but he called the Kyle Connor bit. He said, I like the way Connor's playing. I like the way he's handling the puck. He seems confident. I thought similar about Perfetti. I didn't see a guy who was afraid. He missed one glorious scoring chance. You saw him roll his eyes at it. I thought he was pretty good. He didn't do what you ultimately want him to do, which is score. But if he plays like that, I think it'll come. Like, he didn't shrink from the moment. It's funny. One of the after the game and after the piece there that you guys mentioned, someone said to me that Perfetti's a really talented kid. He's a thinker, and sometimes, the worst thing. There's some people we all work with and know that you tell them the worst thing you can do is think. Just do. And I saw a lot of just think last night from Perfetti, or just do from Perfetti last night. And I think if he plays like that, I think he'll be fine. Like, you guys agree or do you guys disagree? What did you guys think?
We're all pretty high on how Cole Perfetti played in that first game there, especially considering how he didn't get to play in the playoffs last year. He was a healthy scratch for the first 4 games. So we're really pleased with this game, and we think that we're seeing a lot of him modeling Mark Scheifele. And I just want to hear your thoughts on Mark Scheifele kind of as a whole, from a more holistic point of view in terms of his leadership and how dedicated he is to the game. Because I think yesterday was just a masterclass in what he can do as a 1C on a Stanley Cup contender.
Well, I thought he was great last night too. I agree, Lyss. It's funny. I remember a year ago I came up to do some playoff previews. This is one of my favorite little Mark Scheifele stories, and we came on a day of an optional practice before the playoffs, and they told us be there early because not a lot of guys are gonna go out. And so we had to be there early in case guys just said, you know what, I'll do the interview. I'm not going on the ice. And Scheifele was early. And so I was like, I guess he's not skating today. And it turned out he was going to skate, but he just wanted to get the interview done early. And he walked up to the chair and I said, you're not skating today? And he stopped and he paused and he turned and looked at me like I'd insulted him and said, Elliotte, you don't know me very well, do you? And he says, of course I'm going out there. And, I think one of the things that's thing about Scheifele is he works. And I think we've all know a lot of people who have all the talent in the world, but if you don't work, it doesn't matter how much talent you've got. He works. I thought he was great last night. Obviously the points, he had 3 points. He scored a big goal, but he was also physical. St. Louis, at least I have to go back through the shift chart, but at least in the first period, he got the head-to-head matchup with Rob Thomas. It's not hard to figure out if you win or lose that battle. And I thought last night Scheifele gave Thomas everything he could handle. And the other thing too is I remember when I spoke to Scott Arniel, it was really interesting about the fact that Scheifele didn't make the Team Canada Four Nations team. You can channel that energy positively or negatively, and it's clear that since that's happened, Scheifele's handled that in the most positive way. Like, okay, you don't think I'm good enough? Well, I'm going to prove to you that you're not going to make the same decision for the Olympic Games.
I want to ask one follow-up on that in terms of both those guys. So, Elliotte, the cool thing about the piece you did was it kind of showed the relationship between Scheifele and Perfetti. And, my favorite part was the story about how they're driving to Plymouth, Michigan, or wherever it was for the skate in the summer. And a young 20-year-old Perfetti picked up Scheifele. Why is it that you think these two players click so well and that sort of mentorship, apprentice relationship has developed between two huge Winnipeg Jets players?
Well, I think a couple of things. I think number one, like hockey nerds love hockey nerds, and people might think I'm like making fun of those guys. I'm not, because I think that if you're going to be really good at something, you have to be passionate about it, and passion aligns with passion, and you can tell that both of those guys love hockey. Like Scheifele loves it. I mean, you guys all know Scheifele. He loves hockey, and Perfetti is the same kind of way. And I think not only are they passionate about hockey from watching it, but I think they're also very passionate about hockey from the technical aspects of it and that kind of way. So there's a lot in common there. I think the other thing too is that I just think that Scheifele knows that if you're going to be successful, he may not be the captain, but he's a big part of the leadership group. I think that when you're the number one center on a team, I think people can be easily intimidated by you. People can be like, am I going to fit in with that guy? And Scheifele made it pretty clear that Perfetti's going to fit in with him. I thought the other part about that too, and it was kind of at the end of the piece, was that it's very clear that Scheifele's habits are rubbing off on Perfetti, like the eating and things like that. I left that interview thinking that I'm glad that Scheifele doesn't see what my diet looks like. But, I just think that it's very clear that Perfetti is Perfetti seems like a pretty easygoing guy. Scheifele is a pretty intense guy. But it's very clear that they fit with each other, that like Scheifele just wants to know, are you at least on the same wavelength of him in terms of, are you dedicated to the game and to yourself? And he clearly feels that Perfetti is.
We're chatting here with Elliotte Friedman from Sportsnet on WST Sunday Live. Elliotte, stepping away from last night's game for a second, we had two UFAs re-sign in Winnipeg this week with Alex Iafallo and Neil Pionk. And a lot of fans outside of the market like to take digs at Winnipeg that nobody wants to play here. Your thoughts on those two players re-upping and maybe it changing the narrative that nobody wants to play in Winnipeg?
Well, I've thought that narrative was stupid for some time now. I mean, if you take a look at the history of the Jets, you have re-signed a lot of good players there. Like, Mark Scheifele is now signed twice. Blake Wheeler signed. Dustin Byfuglien signed. Kyle Connor signed. Players have signed there. Like I don't waste a lot of my time with stupid narratives, so I don't worry about that. But here's what I will say. Number one, it's to me, I compare it a lot to, we have this joke, if you listen to the podcast, like, did you know I used to cover the NBA? When I covered the Raptors, it was similar to the way the Jets were seen. And that is that, like, the Raptors had less runway than other teams. If things weren't going well, you had a problem. But if things are going well, you will be able to keep players. Like Vince Carter eventually left, but he did sign. Akeem Olajuwon, a Hall of Fame player, agreed to be traded there when things were good. So you have to have, when things are going well, people will stay. And right now things are going well for the Jets. The second thing is, and I don't know if this is going to air, but we talked about it when I was there. The Jets really try to do their work on who are the kinds of people that are going to like it there. And Byfuglien, of course, was an outdoorsy guy, an ice fisherman, right? Perfect. I think that if you take Iafallo, if you know his history, he's an outdoors guy. He's a surfer. I think he's another guy who likes like fishing and stuff like that. Like I heard Iafallo's negotiation was like, they went to him and they said, would you have any interest in staying here? And he was like, absolutely, I would. And they were like, okay, let's, it was like the negotiation, I think it always has its challenges, but gauging his interest in staying, I heard it was super easy. Like it was just, there was never a doubt that he was going to have an issue staying. I think the same thing for Pionk. I think that they have a guy, they know he's from the area and he's an easy guy. He's a low maintenance guy. And I think the Jets have really tried to do their homework on, if we draft someone or we trade someone, do they have the kind of lifestyle where they could say, you know what, this is good for me, and it gives us a better chance of keeping them. And I think in these two cases, they did exactly that.
I couldn't agree more. And I think one last one with from us here with another pending guy who has signed here before and may sign here again with a question mark. Nikolai Ehlers is a guy who's missing some time right now for an undisclosed, not a lot of detail publicly about the injury, and also is a pending UFA coming up on July 1st. Just curious to hear your thoughts on him on your way out.
Ehlers I've always thought would be the toughest one. I just think that, I think also too now it shows to me, guys, that the Jets are taking care of business. So I don't like to sound like a 5-alarm blaze or a panic or anything like that. But whenever you see the business taken care of in a couple of cases and not in the other one, I think it always leads to a question of what happened in these other two cases that's not happening in this one. And especially during playoffs, I don't like to jump to conclusions because a lot of teams, it's in the back of everyone's mind. The only thing I'll say is I was always kind of told Ehlers would be a bigger challenge than some of the other ones. And so that's where I think it stands right now.
Well, Elliotte, thank you so much for taking the time this morning. Enjoy the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we'll look forward to having you on again soon.
My pleasure, guys. And just tell my booking agent Jacob if the Jets go far, we'll do this again. Okay.
Yeah, we'll
Absolutely.
think about
Sounds
it.
great.
We'll think
Okay.
about
All
it.
right. Thanks, Jacob. I'm glad that you're at least considering it. I appreciate it, man.
Of course, Freed. We'll be pestering you if they go farther. You have no doubt about that. Thanks so much.
Take care, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks. There's Elliotte Friedman from Sportsnet, Hockey Night in Canada. Super, super thankful that he was able to take the time this morning. We've got over 400 people here on a Sunday morning. Everyone's fired up. Jets up 1-0 in the series. Elliotte Friedman on WST Sunday Live. Hit that like button, folks. If you're enjoying the stream, we would really appreciate it. And guys, anything else that you want to say coming out of that conversation, or should we get right into trending up, trending down?
I want to say one thing that I kind of took away from that. It's bigger picture. I mean, we've talked a lot about the series, but the Mark Scheifele thing,
Yes.
if you're going to have guys be in Winnipeg, there's a couple things that need to happen. Number one, you've got to really love hockey. And what I mean by that is maybe to the extreme, right? Like the fans and those things need to have a value to you. Like Perfetti in that conversation with Elliotte, which I think you should all check out. It's really awesome. It's on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and other platforms. The cool thing is Perfetti, when talking about the city, is like the fans. It's great to play in front of, right? You need those kind of guys. But usually when you're one of those guys, you're really dialed in, i.e. Mark Scheifele. And one thing to keep an eye on, if there's someone that's going to join this kind of duo as the third musketeer, Braden Yeager, because when he was here in training camp, he was working a lot with Mark Scheifele. And I remember interviewing him as he was so cool that Mark took time to kind of do stuff with him. And Mark, I remember saying like he'll work with anyone that has time to, put it, that takes the time to put effort into their game. So that's an encouraging sign for Winnipeg's future. And also, too, to give Mark a bit of credit, hosting Luke Shen and Brandon Tanev when they came to the city. I had talked to someone that, had known Scheifele in their formative years. He said, I was so proud to see Mark kind of get into that role. And, he learned from guys like Andrew Ladd and Blake Wheeler early on and whatnot. And now it's kind of, the kids aren't kids anymore. Lowry, Morrissey, Scheifele, we've seen it in different ways. I think Mark Scheifele's evolution as a leader is kind of that example for him for sure.
I agree. And I thought that was the highlight of the Cole Perfetti and Mark Scheifele conversation that Elliotte, or at the interview that Elliotte did with both of those players. If you haven't checked it out, it's on the Sportsnet YouTube. It was a great chat. It was about 7.5-minute video. And Cole Perfetti, the story about him driving in like a storm with Mark Scheifele, he's a 20-year-old, he's gripping the steering wheel, was pretty funny. So go check that out for sure. Got to give a shout out to Adam Douglas, loyal WST Sunday Live listeners here every single Sunday. $15 super chat. Getting Elliotte deserves a super chat. Great show, guys. Go Jets. Thank you so much, Adam. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us here on a Sunday morning. This has been an absolute blast so far, and it's going to get even better. So stay in the chat room because this is the part of the show where we go trending up or trending down. This is the time of the show. We pick one player or thing that has trended up or down for the Winnipeg Jets over the past week of play. They've played one game, so this is going to be tough, but we're going to do it anyways. Clean slate. Everyone's on the board. Everything is on the board. So you could take whatever. You could take a St. Louis Blues player. It doesn't matter. But anyways, trending up, trending down. Hit the chat room. Let me know your picks for trending up or trending down. Who wants to go first? Because then you're going last for trending down after a playoff win. So keep that in mind.
I can go first because
Sure.
I feel like my trending downs are all pretty... whatever. I don't know. I can go last for trending down, and then it's nice and easy to tee it up for trending up. I'm going to go with my boy Morgan Barron for this one, just because I feel like
your boy
and
that's my boy,
our collective boy. My
All
boy
right.
is in. I fully, whenever I have conversations with people, kind of like offline, I talk about how everyone on the show sort of has their guys, and depending on the day, Jacob, I either credit you with Morgan Barron or Alex Iafallo, sometimes both. Connor's is Dylan Sandberg for sure, and then mine is Cole Perfetti. So the reason I call Morgan Barron my boy is because I called him in the playoff preview that Connor and I did, where we talked about different X factors for the Winnipeg Jets. He was the guy that I listed as someone who I just think has a lot of potential to really tilt the scales a little bit in the lower end of the lineup. I know a lot of Blues fans are really big on their WTF line, but I feel like Morgan Barron is able to do a lot of the things that I think could expose some of the things that like Hrabchak is not super good at. And also if he's out there against guys like Ryan Suter and whatnot, I think he's just able to really come in with, burn them with that speed and use his body for all these different things. I think, you know, if you haven't checked out that playoff preview yet, please do. We talked about all kinds of different things. And Morgan Barron is a guy who I think had a sneaky good game yesterday. And I think that, you know, the excitement that came from that fourth line is exactly what we need to see from them. And so we haven't talked much about the depth of the Winnipeg Jets forward group today. So I'm just going to give him a little bit of love for this segment.
Jacob, before we get to your pick, I have to shout out the synchronized celly from Morgan Barron and Jared Anderson. And it's so perfect. It's so perfect because it's a fourth line goal. Everyone's so fired up. They both drop down to one knee and celebrate. No one knows who scores. Morgan Barron goes first in line. We hear his goal song. Then 30 minutes of real time go by, and this goal gets changed to Jared Anderson Dolan.
Manitoba
and
Moose
so
legend Jared Anderson Dolan.
That they both cellied this.
The thing too, though, is that if you think about that happening, the funniest part is they were probably like, who got like, Jad celebrated.
You go. Yeah,
you go, whatever.
Yeah, you go.
But
whatever. Yeah.
Anderson Dolan probably thought because he tipped it, like, oh, he must have got another tip of it.
Another one.
Without him probably like you don't know who had the second tip, right?
Oh my God, no.
He was probably like, oh, okay, wait, I did score. Like that seems so. What are the odds that both would get a touch on it?
Yeah, it's nuts. And like
ridiculous.
It's so loud in there. You're on the fourth line, like you just scored a goal. You don't care how it went in. I love the fact that they both separately celebrated, went down on one knee, and then they both kind of turned to one another and were like, "Oh, did you score? Did I score? What kind of happened there?"
Like, who cares? It's a goal. Let's ride.
We're on the fourth. It's a goal. It's a playoff goal. This building's going nuts. 2-1 lead. Yeah. I had to shout that out because in the moment I thought it was hilarious. I was like, who scored? They both celebrated. Jacob, who's your pick for trending up?
Trending up.
Yeah.
Do I go with the obvious one? I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I'll go Mark Scheifele.
Nice.
And I'm gonna talk about, you know, a different element that we can touch on, but I think that in this series, one of the biggest X factors is that matchup of Scheifele and Thomas. Mm-hmm. So Robert Thomas is the leading scorer since the Four Nations break or whatever in the Blues heater. I've long been a huge Robert Thomas fan. I think both players are similar in some of their strengths, i.e. they're both two of the best passers in the world, unequivocally. But, you know, there's some differences in their game. And I think that in this series, if Mark Scheifele can will his style of play to be more effective than Thomas's line, the Winnipeg Jets are in a really good spot. And I thought that last night was a good example of that. And I think that a reason too, I got to say, is Scheifele along the wall, like just all night, possessing the puck. And that was far more effective in that game than what Robert Thomas was doing in transition or just in zone facilitating plays. So I think Mark Scheifele has the edge right now, as the Jets do in the series.
Absolutely. My trending up pick, I'm going to take Adam Lowry. This is a guy who in the playoffs every single year raises his game. He's built for the playoffs. He's a physical player. The game started and we know the first 5 minutes were just nervous energy. There were 0 shots on goal for either team, but it was so fast paced, so open, so physical. And the Jets were kind of struggling to break the puck out of their own zone at that time. And then the puck gets dumped in. Ryan Suter is going back for it. And Adam Lowry and all 6'5" of them is charging. And you could feel the crowd like know that a big hit is coming. And he absolutely crushed Ryan Suter into the boards. I thought he was great defensively all night long. He got the empty net goal late in the game as well. Not that that really means anything, but did in the moment, giving the Jets a 2-goal lead. Yeah, I know, but I mean, the puck was like sitting in the crease and he tapped it in. Like, whatever.
He hustled.
You know what I mean?
I know.
Yeah, no, he hustled to get there. He could have easily been.
Let me give you one stat to back your point up, Connor. The last 3 years, Adam Lowry has 8 points in 11 playoff games.
Nice. Well, you guys will see some fun Winnipeg Sports Talk social media content coming out in the next couple days where I did some street interviews with some folks, and he's 5th in all-time Jets 2.0 scoring in the playoffs. Maybe different as of yesterday because, well, no, he's still 5th.
Yeah.
That's more than Morrissey.
5th all-time Jets 2.0 playoff points. Yeah. Guy raises his level of game
more
in the
than
playoffs.
Ehlers, more than Pionk. Yep.
Every single year. Every single year, he's one of the Jets' best players in the playoffs. And game one showed me that this year's going to be no different. Before we get to trending down, Kenny's water bottle trending up. $30 super chat. Happy Easter, everyone. Great job. Treat yourself to some Timmies today. Go, Jets, go. Thank you so much, KWB, for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Everyone's fired up here on a Sunday morning. Big Jets win last night. Now let's, change the mood a little bit. Trending down. Who did we not like? Playoff wins. We don't like those. No, I'm kidding.
Can I go first? Or no? Who's
sure.
turn is it?
Sure.
Is it my turn or no? Did I go on a turn?
No, you're good. Well, yes, but then
technically I think it's Connor's turn, but
I'm impatient.
Fine. I'll go. I'll take the penalty kill. Blues went 2 for. Blues went 2 for. Yeah. No kidding. Blues went 2 for 3 last night, and the only reason they didn't score on the third one is because it was cut short because of the Zach Bolduc penalty. Not saying they would have scored, but the first two, I mean, the Robert Thomas one, the Jets got really over aggressive at the blue line. Cam Fowler kept that puck in, and Robert Thomas had like 3 options, and it was just Dylan DeMello and Connor Hellebuyck. So they got a little over aggressive there on the first goal. The second goal, Jordan Kyrou picks a corner. Oscar Sundqvist is standing right in front of Connor Hellebuyck. Couldn't really see, couldn't fight through the screen. I don't know. I thought the penalty kill was fine. I think the over aggressiveness at the blue line is something that they can teach, and they will. That's something that they'll maybe dial back a little bit, because Iafallo was there, and then Lowry also charged, and then you just left your defenseman kind of out to dry. And I think the Blues power play, 27.5% since the Four Nations break. Special teams are a big, big key in this series, and it was the biggest reason why St. Louis was winning the game 3-2 through 2 periods, was their power play and then their penalty kill, only allowing the 1 goal on, I think, 4 attempts for the Winnipeg Jets power play. But I'm going to take the penalty kill trending down because they had a rough game 1. But I think that they'll bounce back because they've been good since the Four Nations break as well. Jacob, you are up next for trending down.
Okay, I'm going to caution that this is maybe bigger picture and less results based and more process oriented.
Oh boy, who are you about to say?
As they like to say,
power play.
Oh, okay.
Because the goal that Mark scored was a fortunate bounce, obviously, but let's just look at the game as a whole here. I think we all agree, power play without Ehlers and Velarde, it's a work in progress. And I think that there's 2 elements to it for me. Number one, not having Velarde is not only a great net front guy, but having the right-handed player in his facilitating spot down low, along with Scheifele on the flank, gives them so many options, not even just to shoot it, but to pass. Like there's so many different, touch points for the Jets on that when they're connected like that. And without him, I think that the Blues PK, who I think is the best since the deadline, they didn't add anyone then, but just around that mark, they're number 1. They've been able to clamp down quite a bit on the middle lanes. And I think that it's going to be harder. This is going to be an issue of as Arneal said, kind of a chess match, not an issue. It's a chess match here going forward with special teams, because the Blues PK, they really, really are able to get into lanes. One thing I'll say before I get off the power play, if I were to make one suggestion, or maybe prediction, I should say, I wonder if that first power play unit, one of the things that Davis Payne decides to do is throw a big body in front of the net instead of an Iafallo down there. And just whether it's a Morgan Barron, even Adam Lowry, just someone to cause chaos. Because
I remember Bones did that.
Yeah.
I remember Bones put Lowry on the first power play, but it was more like a petty thing because the power play was really struggling. So he was like, you know what? Adam Lowry's going to go out and he's going to stand right in front of the goalie, and that's going to be that. But I could see it too, or maybe like a Nino Niederreiter up from the second unit. I
think you need
I don't know,
a guy that will be a problem in front of the net. And I think over Nino, I put Lowry. Maybe even Barron.
I feel like I put Morgan Barron over both of them. I think he's a guy who can take a billion cross checks to the ribs and kind of have some fun there. But I agree with you on that. I like that take. For my trending down, I'm going to go with the bottom pairing because I'm not going to single any guys out, but I do think that, there were some moments yesterday, even with the Winnipeg Jets having last change, that you saw Logan Stanley out on the ice at the same time as Robert Thomas. And if I'm Jim Montgomery, I'm trying to do that as much as I can when I have final change in games 3 and 4 and any other games going forward. And, I'm not going to try and dunk on these guys too much, but there is a foot speed issue with that pairing for sure. And if you put them out against some other guys who are really electric skaters like Robert Thomas on that other team, holy smokes, you could put yourself in a situation to get burnt. And I have been consistent in my belief for years and years now, and I'm not going to change up now because it's the Jets, that teams can win Stanley Cups in spite of depth players, and they do it all the time. Jack Johnson was a regular in the Colorado Avalanche when they won the Stanley Cup. Like, guys can do that, but if you have 2 or 3 really bad choke ups per game, if you have some exposure of that bottom pairing, that could be a problem for the Winnipeg Jets. And, they weren't a huge issue yesterday. And again, we can sort of talk about how a pretty dominant playoff win where, you only give up 2 shots in the final frame is not a game where you want to be poking on too much to anyone. But that bottom pairing in terms of where the trend is at, I do worry about them going forward for sure.
Well, we do say it every single week, but I'll say it again. Like, it's very tough to pick trending down. Like, we've done a few this year.
I wish we did this segment in 2021. I would have been so good at this segment in 2021.
So many options. It's like, the Jets won 8 straight games. Okay, now who's trending down? It's like, well, I don't know. They won a playoff game. They're up 1-0 in the series. Who's trending down? It's like, yeah, it's a little tough, but we are doing what we can. I liked all 3 of our picks, special teams and the bottom pairing. And people in chat had great picks as well. I will say these 2 picks kind of go hand in hand with the inconsistent penalty calls.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that.
With the Jets' ability to clear someone from the front of the net, that is a legit trending down. But also, the first penalty of the game, Luke Schenn is clearing the front of the net. Like, this is a playoff net front battle.
I couldn't believe
the guy out of the way, and it's a call. Then the next one is Jake Neighbors slash on Alex Iafallo, I believe. Where was that? That was like, I don't know. Both sides. I'm not even just saying this like, the Jets were
no. It was just strange reffing.
It was just very
also
strange.
Too. Just saying, for instance, I will caution. This might sound radical, but even the Bull Duke penalty, which was stupid, you should never do that. There's a lot of refs that, given the flow of the game, aren't calling that. I'm just saying.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, the frustrating part to me in watching the game from both sides is, why are you setting the tone to be that early? You screw up the Schenn call, or you make a statement, and then you have to do a makeup call with the Neighbors one. The Neighbors one, if I'm Jim Montgomery, I'm losing my mind, because the Schenn one is, I don't even know. Not even going to try to justify it, but it's like really soft call. The slash was almost made up. I swear to God.
It almost, yeah.
It was non-existent. I actually have no idea what the base of that call is. And that is the stupidest way to start a playoff game, in my opinion, where special teams are so
that being the first call too is like, really?
Yeah.
And then Pionk getting a like, why are you guys trying to like that only creates more frustration.
Yeah.
You're making terrible calls.
No, I don't like it when the reffing dramatically impacts the scope of the game, and you would be full of crap if you said it didn't. Like, talk about like those special teams goals early on in the game there. Like, they really set the tone in that game, and I would never, if the Jets had lost the game, the St. Louis lost that game, and I would never say, I will never, ever say you lost the game because of reffing, because if it was a terrible, terrible call and you got scored on a power play, well, guess what? You should have scored in the 55 minutes before that. Like, I do believe that 100%, but like, the refs are supposed to support the course of a game, not dictate it. And I do feel like there was some dictation, especially in the early part of the game.
100%. And I think to tie this reffing thing back to last night's game, and like the on ice play from the Jets, I think the biggest sign, or positive sign, if you're a Jets fan, to take from this game, obviously they won, but outside of special teams, there were not many moments throughout the course of the game where St. Louis was the better team at 5-on-5. Like, the St. Louis Blues got their 2 goals on the power play, or their first 2 goals. Outside of that, I didn't really see much 5-on-5 from the Blues that, threatened the Jets. Maybe the first 5 minutes when the Jets were clearly nervous, clearly cautious with the puck, just trying to, some weird bounces as well. Like, I don't know. I thought the Jets were easily the better team at 5-on-5 last night. And if special teams can kind of come back down to earth a little bit, and you're up 1-0 in the series, that's a pretty good spot to be in if you're the Winnipeg Jets. So that was trending up, trending down. Thank you so much, everyone in the chat, for taking part. This was a fun one. Everyone's taking part. We've got over 400 people in chat still. 413 is what my StreamYard is telling me. Hit the like button down below. Hit the subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss all the great content we've got here at WST, such as the post-game show from last night. Remus and I were in the building in section 120, I believe, after recording a little post-game hit, 25-minute reaction. Go check that video out right after WST Sunday Live if you haven't already and you're looking for more post-game content on the Winnipeg Jets 5-3 win over the St. Louis Blues. And guys, let's roll right into one burning question. This is the part of the show where we open it up to the chat. We've got over 400 people, so there's going to be more than one burning question. I think there's going to be a lot. But if you're here on YouTube, hit the chat room. Ask us any question that you want us to answer regarding the Winnipeg Jets and their playoff series, and we will try and rapid fire through these. So get down to the chat now. And while you're down there, like I said, hit that like button. We would really appreciate it. My one burning question to you both is, how awesome was the run of goal songs last night? Mark Scheifele, Shoot to Thrill. Second one was Morgan Barron, It's a Long Way to the Top, AC/DC. And what? So we got robbed of hearing Jared Anderson Dolan's goal.
I was going to say Jared Anderson Dolan's got a good one too, but yeah.
Yeah, and then we got Kyle Connor, Hell Yeah. We got Espresso, Sabrina Carpenter with the empty net goal. And then Alex I followed to tie it up. You got to fight for the right to party. Beastie Boys. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Okay, well, here's my burning question for you in response. Yeah. Could you hear them?
Well, fair.
Yeah.
No, the oh man.
Wait,
crowd
did we find out? We don't even know what Brandon Tanev's goal song is.
I'm not sure.
He hasn't scored at home yet.
So just be like
the scenes when he scores in front of the window.
I feel like Brandon Tanev is going to be like Barbie Girl or something like that.
something off the board.
So funny.
That'd be a tough one to it'd be a tough one to guess on, like, what,
I know.
Put a guess forward. Very tough. Could go a lot of ways.
Odd. Yeah,
it could go a lot of ways for sure. All right, let's get to the one burning questions. I see the chat filling up already. What line does 13 play on when he returns? We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier as well. If I had to guess, I think he goes back to line 1 and then they figure out where to put Iafallo after that. That could
if I had to guess, If I was asked to make a prediction, I would say that.
Okay, I agree. Matt Hyman says, Connor, did you sleep last night? Not much. We were preparing for the show. Elliotte Friedman, big show. But it was fun. I mean, that was the crowd was going for sure. Mark asked who is out of the lineup when Velarde returns. I think David Gustafson would come out of the fourth line. Yeah,
for sure.
I think Anderson Dolan was great.
Has leapfrogged him.
I think so too. Rat River Rebel asks, will we get a video for the McDonald's breakfast bet payment? So we've settled.
We did.
Tim Hortons yesterday. We knew that Logan Stanley was going to play game 1, and that was the next bet. Is I had Logan Stanley in the lineup for game 1 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Jacob had him out of the lineup. So we hit Tim's before the Hockey for All practice on Friday, and Jacob paid up. We didn't even know. Who knows? We could have got out for line rushes, then it would have been Hayden Fleury. It's like, oh my goodness, we gotta
early cash out.
Yeah. But Jacob.
Hey, I got in on that too. I didn't even make the bet, and I still won the reward.
Yes.
So it's a pretty sweet deal. Follow me for more financial advice because that was pretty sweet on my part.
100%.
Thanks for the coffee, Jacob. Appreciate it.
And there you go. And the next one is Lyss, you and I, on Connor Hellebuyck winning the Hart, which I think you're gonna win. I think obviously I think Connor Hellebuyck deserves the Hart. I just don't see him winning it. Was my side of the bet, and you think he is going to win it?
To remember, yeah. I think Draisaitl's games missed is what.
Yeah, that really helped. Yeah, for sure. And I hope he does. I really hope he does. Was the MVP chant the loudest chant ever in Winnipeg? It was pretty loud.
I think that actually may have been
like the loudest chant last night. Yeah.
No, this is a bit of a different question. Well, and what were the best chants? Guys, I was walking to my brother's car, and he was parked on Edmonton or something like that, south of the convention center, and further down towards Osborne, there was a really loud KFC chant going on. We were 6 blocks from the street party. It was so funny.
KFC.
I was like, this, everyone's dialed. Everyone's dialed. It was pretty fun.
Okay, maybe that was the loudest chant ever. I think Silver Medal might be. Looking back on it,
that was a good one.
But that was so long ago. We're back, guys. We're back with the chants.
But yes, MVP was pretty awesome. That was chills.
Yeah. And they're doing the Jordan after every goal for Bennington. I love that as well. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You want to talk about a guy whose head you can get into?
Yes. I will say in 2019, I remember being in the crowd and chanting "You look nervous" at Jordan Bennington because that was the year. Do I look nervous? And then so I don't know if that makes a comeback. Maybe it shouldn't, given how that 2019 series went. But Canada Life Center was in prime form with the chants last night. For
Luke
sure.
is better.
Luke is better. I saw some people get mad at that. I'm like, it's clearly a joke. Like, it's
awesome.
It's like, oh, what a bad chant. There's no way Luke Schenn's better than Brady Shen.
Okay, well, those people,
right, well,
those people don't like chants, so we don't need to worry about them.
People hate fun.
Exactly.
That's all I can say.
Exactly.
If this was in St. Louis and the chant was Braden's better, I would be like, great chant.
Yeah, well,
Like, it's a great chant.
It's playoffs. This is the time. Jeff, Tanev's is probably Pink Pony Club. I could see that. Pink Pony Club goal song for Brandon.
Hot to go.
Hot to go.
We're just
like
spitting out nonsense predicting his goal song, and watch it be like heavy metal.
No, I was
It's
gonna say, because that was my prediction. It was like that, or it's like Volbeat or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Here's a good question from Darth Skater. What tweaks to their game do you predict St. Louis will try to implement? Lyss.
So I have an interesting opinion on that, because I found that yesterday there was a lot of flicking going on over the course of the game. What I mean is that there was a lot of time where the Jets were like kind of hemmed in, and there was a really interesting, like, I feel like there were many attempts to kind of spring a guy through the middle of the neutral zone to kind of go through on a loose puck. And Connor Hellebuyck played the puck a lot yesterday, and I feel like there was just a lot of intention to try and beat the Jets defense in particular to pucks. I thought that once St. Louis was cycling, the Jets did a pretty good job of kind of protecting that middle of the ice and all that sort of thing. But I think they're definitely going to try and adjust to get more shots on net, kind of, even if they're lower danger. Sure. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more shooting from the St. Louis Blues, and just a little bit more of hunkering down on some of those things that I feel like I noticed over the course of that game in terms of just trying to spring those odd man rushes and stuff like that. Because this is a very tenacious team. And so that's not a super concrete answer, but I do think a little bit more intention offensively, because I thought they did a pretty good job of protecting the middle of their ice as well. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I thought it was a pretty tight-knit game from the St. Louis Blues, but I think in terms of like offensive firepower, I think they're going to try and get a little bit more kind of going there.
For sure. And Natural Stat Trick last night had the Blues shot attempts, or the shot attempts for the game in the Jets' favor were 64-35. The St. Louis was at 35 shot attempts, all situations with 3 power plays. That's
insane because the Winnipeg Jets are also like, well, in the first period, they were a little bit of a shot attempt team. I was like, this is weird. This isn't the Winnipeg Jets. But when the Winnipeg Jets dominate shot share, that's how you know they played a real good game. Because even if they play like a good game, sometimes they'll still get outshot, and they totally intended to do that. Like, they're not too focused on that. So when you're that skewed heavily in the Jets' favor, like, that's a pretty good game by the team.
Yeah. Jacob, I'll throw this one to you. Jet-centric asks, is Monty one of the coaches that most worries you? He's a great coach. Worry about counting eggs before they hatch. You and I talked about this on our way to the game last night, Jacob. Jim Montgomery.
Manitoba legend.
There you go. Interested to see what he does, because I feel like he's one of the more technical, forward-thinking coaches in the league, Jacob.
Well, what I'm wondering, like, when I look at what Jim Montgomery can do, of course, like, last change is the only thing. I mean, I wonder if we'll see him load up that Thomas line. Like, does he put Kyrou with them? I don't know how often he does that, or does he add, does he load up the lines there, or even the power play? I know they have 2 really good units. The one thing I will say with Montgomery is I wonder if when the Blues go back to St. Louis, if they will opt to match their shutdown line of Sundqvist, Bolduc, and Joseph against Scheifele's line. And I wonder if that's the route that they take and take their odds there, because that's a really good line, honestly. And I think it can give the Jets nightmares. So that's one thing I'm worried about, because if they don't like the trade-off with the Thomas line, may as well go with your shutdown line. For sure.
Jacob, you asked this question in Hellebuyck last night on the potential of a goalie fight. Kenny's water bottle asked, do you agree with Helly that goalie fights in the playoffs are dumb?
Yes. I think Connor did not understand my question. Like, actually, sorry. Connor completely understood the premise of my question. Like, it was so dumb. I just think that maybe Connor thought that I wanted him to fight or something.
No.
Which I did not. I just thought, like, did it ever kind of come into your mind? Because, like, Bennington's skating
Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live take of the day. Jacob Stoller wants Connor Hellebuyck to scrap.
To fight.
Exactly. Yeah. Put that as the title of the episode beside Friedman's name. But I think it was a classic Helly answer, because it would be just incredibly dumb.
Yeah. Jets need more toughness, so they should turn to their MVP goalie to fight. Stand up for the team. Yeah, no, that's okay. Here's the thing. And Mike McIntyre from the Free Press was saying this after the game. He's like, it'd be very entertaining it'd be very dumb, but very entertaining. But also,
I don't know if I'd be entertained so much as I'd be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
yeah, don't get hurt. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that there'd be a lot of collective holding of the breath in Winnipeg.
It'd be a clown show.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, actually, no. Here's my one burning question: how electric
Mm.
do you think the crowd would have been if Connor Hellebuyck had scored a goalie goal on the empty net
Oh my
instead of Adam
goodness.
Lowry?
I think they would have
We need
rushed
that.
the ice.
We need that. Literally, break
I
the
think
plexiglass.
the glass would have like folded onto the ice. Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine that. A goalie goal in the regular season, and the place would go nuts. In the playoffs, oof. Although Hellebuck would never try it. Never, ever, ever. He would never try.
He's not
and
the
shoot it
type.
down the ice. No, he almost. I know Jets fans were worried late in the game. He went to play the puck and he shot it like off the glass and around, and it was close to going straight out. And there was like it was 3-3. It was like 4 minutes left. He went out once and held onto it way too long. And then the next time he went out and looked shaky and went to fire it up the boards, and I was like, oh boy, if this goes straight out. Jets are on the PK. St. Louis power play is hot, but yeah, it's we'll see. Connor Hellebuyck was playing the puck a lot last night and got away with it for the most part and made some nice plays. And we know Jordan Binnington, like he was out of his net a ton playing the puck. So the Imperial March from Star Wars would be a solid goal song. Brandon Tanev, big Star Wars fan, or maybe Jared Anderson Dolan, big Star Wars fan. We'll have to see. That was one burning question. Thank you everyone for taking part. We really appreciate it. Still over 400 people here in chat. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We really appreciate it. Anything else, guys, on the way out today, coming out of a 1-0 series lead, Jets win 5-3. Anything else you want to say? And a conversation with Elliotte Friedman as well, which was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that this was a game that a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans can and should hang their hats on in terms of, I think it was a really positive game in the sense of this team, we've questioned if they can adjust, if they can come back, this heartbreak. We know they've gone through the heartbreak, but can they rally? And all these, philosophical questions about their playoff performance, whatever. This would have been a really easy game to get down and out on, especially after, some not great goals that you didn't want to let in, not being able to score. But those 3 goals in that third period, like, holy smokes, that is a testament of bringing this 82 game team into the playoffs, and I was really happy to see that for them. I think that they kept put their head down and went to work, as ridiculous as it sounds, and I think that that's a really exciting way to finish that game. I almost was thinking of counting them out as that third period progressed, and I was like, okay, like I'm feeling not super great about the odds here. They're playing pretty well. They're starting to pick it up, but they're going to really need to score a couple big ones here. And holy smokes, did they ever. And that third period, limiting to St. Louis to as few shots as they did and scoring those big goals was just unbelievable. And I think that if you're a Jets fan, like, get excited, because that was a fun one.
Yeah, for sure. Jacob, any final thoughts as we close out this edition of WST Sunday Live?
Yeah, thanks to Elliotte Friedman for coming on. That was awesome. I mean, he's a great reference. Elliotte does, and a lot of times I find that people, the outsider perspectives, maybe think that they have a different idea of Winnipeg, but Elliott's as plugged in as like those insiders. They offer a great perspective, so that was awesome to hear. Love the work he did with the Scheifele and Perfetti feature. Great, all around great dude. Been super gracious.
Shout out to his panel on Hockey Night in Canada yesterday with Kelly Rudy for shouting out your article there.
Yeah.
Thank you to Kelly as well. Kelly's been
glad we could get a celebrity Jacob Stoller on WST Sunday Live today. It's a big. Elliotte Friedman wasn't the real score. It was getting Jacob on.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty big league. You should call my agent next time. But
good call. Yep.
Thanks to Friedge, and thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, everyone. Enjoy the next couple of games. Game 2 is Monday night, 6:30. It's not a 9 p.m. start. That's a huge win. We're not subjected to the weeknight late start here in the playoffs. 6:30 p.m. Central, down at Canada Life Center. The Whiteout will be back. It'll be buzzing. Jets look to take a 2-0 series lead over the Blues. And we will be back when the series turns. Either Tuesday or Wednesday, we will keep you posted. We're going to be doing a special bonus content edition of WST Sunday Live after 2 games, heading as the series heads to St. Louis. And then obviously we'll be back next Sunday, 9 a.m., which is a game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. That is the day of game 4, which is at noon. So that'll be really close to the game. Wake up with WST Sunday Live. It'll be a full preview, and we will have you covered heading into Game 4 against the St. Louis Blues. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Enjoy your week. We'll see you in the middle of the week, and then we'll see you next Sunday as the Winnipeg Jets look to defeat the St. Louis Blues in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Take care, everyone. See ya.